The man notices the milk because it is unopened. It sits on the edge of the checkout counter, cold already, sweating through thin plastic. The cashier waits. The line behind them does not move. The father does not look angry. He does not look embarrassed either. He just sets the carton down and slides it back across the counter. His daughter grips the hem of his jacket with one hand. She does not speak. Across the store, a man who owns more than he needs pauses with his phone in his hand. He has learned to read numbers quickly, to spot waste and opportunity. What he does not know is how close this moment is to becoming permanent. If he looks away, nothing changes. If he intervenes, something will. He stands there long enough to feel the weight of choosing wrong. If you value stories that move quietly and stay with you, consider subscribing. The grocery store is quiet in the way small places get quiet late in the afternoon. Not empty, just slowed. Carts move without urgency. The air smells faintly of bread and disinfectant. The lights hum, steady and unnoticed. The man moves through the aisles with a basket instead of a cart. He always does. It is easier. He does not need much, and he does not like the feeling of pushing something ahead of him. He walks quickly, stopping only when he has to. He knows where things are without looking at signs. He is dressed plainly. A dark jacket, clean shoes. Nothing that asks for attention. People would not guess how much he owns, and he prefers it that way. It lets him pass through places without becoming part of them. He checks his phone while walking, thumb scrolling, eyes half up. He adds items without checking prices, not because he is careless, but because prices have stopped carrying information for him. They no longer guide decisions. At the dairy case, he reaches for milk without thinking, then stops. He already has some at home. He puts his hand down and keeps walking. At the checkout, there are only two people ahead of him, a woman paying in cash and a man with a child. The man stands close to the counter, shoulders slightly forward, as if bracing against something. His jacket is thin. The child stands pressed against his side, one hand wrapped in the fabric near his hip. The cashier scans items slowly. A loaf of bread, a small box of cereal, eggs. The total appears on the screen. The man nods once like he expected it. Then the cashier reaches for the milk. It is a standard carton, nothing special. Still sealed. The kind people buy without thinking. The scanner beeps. The total changes. The man leans forward. He looks at the screen. His mouth opens, then closes. He reaches out and touches the carton, fingers resting on the cold plastic. "Sorry," he says. His voice is low, not apologetic, just careful. He slides the milk back across the counter. The cashier pauses. She looks at the screen again. She removes the item. The total returns to what it was before. She does not say anything. She does not need to. The child tightens her grip on the man's jacket. She does not speak. She watches the carton as it is placed beside the register, separate from the rest. The line does not move. The woman in front finishes counting bills. The receipt prints. The man with the child reaches into his pocket and pulls out folded cash. He smooths it once on the counter before handing it over. Behind him, the man with the basket shifts his weight. He has stopped looking at his phone. He is aware of the milk now. Not because it is milk, but because it is untouched. Because it is waiting. He feels a brief irritation at the pause. It surprises him. He is used to delays being efficient, explained. This one is neither. It is quiet. It lingers. The father takes the change and pockets it without counting. He gathers the bag with one hand. With the other, he rests his palm on the child's head, steadying her as they turn away from the counter. They do not look back at the milk. The man watches them walk toward the doors. The child's shoes light up briefly as she steps. Red, then blue. The sound is soft, but it cuts through the hum of the store. The cashier clears the counter. She pushes the milk farther back out of the way. She looks up at the next customer. "Next," she says. The man steps forward. He places his basket down. He feels the absence of something, though he cannot name it yet. He hands over his card before the total appears. While the cashier scans his items, he glances once toward the doors. They slide open and closed for other customers. The father and child are gone. The total flashes on the screen. It is higher than the one before him. He does not register the number. He taps his card. The transaction approves instantly. As he takes his receipt, his eyes move back to the counter beside the register. The milk is no longer there. Someone has already taken it back to the shelf. The moment feels finished, properly concluded. And yet, as he steps aside to make room for the next person, he knows that something small has lodged itself where it should not have. He pushes the door open and steps into the parking lot, blinking against the light. He walks toward his car without slowing. Halfway there, he stops. He stands still, keys in his hand, the automatic lock untriggered. The store doors close behind him. The sound is final. He does not turn around yet. He stays where he is, just long enough for the pause to feel noticeable. A couple walks past him with a cart between them. An older man loads groceries into the trunk of a small sedan. No one looks twice. The parking lot smells like warm asphalt. The sun is low enough to throw long shadows, but not low enough to cool anything down. The man closes his hand around his keys, then loosens it again. He tells himself he is waiting for nothing in particular. When he finally turns, the glass doors reflect him first, his own outline slightly distorted. Then the inside of the store comes back into view. The checkout lanes, the same cashier. A different customer now standing where the father had been. He does not see the milk. That should be the end of it. He knows how these moments usually resolve. A thing is noticed, then absorbed into the flow of the day. It becomes part of a total, a margin, a rounding error. Nothing personal survives that process. He opens his car door and sets the basket inside. He does not start the engine. The interior is cool. It smells like leather and something citrus. He places his phone in the cup holder, face down. From where he sits, he can see the bus stop across the street. It is nothing more than a bench and a metal sign. There is no shelter, no glass, just a place where people stand when they are waiting. The father and the child are there now. He does not remember seeing them cross. They must have moved quickly. The father stands, one foot slightly forward, looking down the road. The child sits on the bench, legs swinging. Her shoes flash again, briefly. Red, blue. The man watches without meaning to. He tells himself he is only noting the bus schedule out of habit, the way he tracks timing in other parts of his life. But his eyes keep returning to the space between the father's hands. Empty. The father checks his phone. The screen lights his face for a moment. He puts it away and adjusts the strap of the child's backpack, tightening it slightly. The motion is practiced. A car passes between them, breaking the line of sight. When it clears, the child is standing now. She says something. The man cannot hear it. The father looks down at her, listens, then shakes his head once. Gently, the man in the car feels a tightening in his chest that has nothing to do with breath. He recognizes the sensation only because it is rare. It is the feeling of being close to something that cannot be corrected later. He reaches for the door handle, then stops. His hand hovers there. He thinks about how he would explain himself if he walked over. The words line up easily in his head. He is good at that. He knows how to make offers sound reasonable, temporary, clean. He also knows how quickly those offers can become something else. Across the street, the bus appears at the far end of the road. It is early, or late. He cannot tell from this distance. The father straightens. The child steps closer to him. The man feels time compress. Not dramatically, just enough to make the next decision feel heavier than the last one. He opens the car door and steps out. The heat hits him again. He crosses the lot at a steady pace, not rushing. He waits for a break in traffic, then walks across the street with the light. Cars idle. Someone honks behind him, impatient. He does not react. By the time he reaches the bus stop, the bus is slowing. The father turns slightly, registering the approach of another person. His posture changes. He becomes alert. The man stops a few feet away, close enough to be heard, far enough to leave space. The child looks up at him first. Her eyes move from his shoes to his face. She studies him without fear, only curiosity. She points back toward the store and says, "Clearly, you forgot the milk." The words land between them, simple, unsoftened. The father stiffens, not visibly, but enough that the man sees it. He places his hand on the child's shoulder, firming his grip. He looks at her, then back at the man. "We didn't forget," he says. His voice is calm, controlled. "We just didn't get it." The bus pulls in. The doors hiss open. People begin to line up behind them. The man nods once. He feels the moment narrowing. He knows there is no clean way through it now. He takes a breath and speaks. "I saw what happened inside," he says. He keeps his tone even. "I can take care of it, if you want." The father looks at him fully now. His eyes are tired but clear. He does not ask questions. He does not explain. "No," he says. The word is quiet. Final. The bus driver clears his throat. The line inches forward. The father guides his daughter onto the bus. She looks back once, not at the man, but toward the street. The father does not look back at all. The man steps aside to let them pass. The doors close. The bus pulls away. He is left standing at the stop. The space beside him suddenly empty. The street noise returns to normal. Cars move. A bird lands briefly on the sign, then flies off. The man does not move. Not yet. He remains at the bus stop after the bus disappears, as if the space itself might explain what just happened. The bench is still warm where the child had been sitting. A small dark mark shows where the father wiped it with his sleeve. It looks deliberate now, almost careful. He steps closer and sits down. The metal is hot through his jacket. He rests his hands on his knees. They are steady. That surprises him. He watches the road for a while, even though there's nothing left to watch. Traffic moves in predictable waves. A delivery truck slows, then accelerates. Someone jogs past with earbuds in, eyes forward. The world has already adjusted. After a few minutes, he stands. He crosses back when the light changes, slower this time. The grocery store doors open again, releasing a wash of cool air. He does not go inside. He stops just short of them and turns toward the parking lot instead. His car unlocks with a soft click. He gets in and closes the door. The quiet inside feels different now. Less sealed. He starts the engine. It idles smoothly. He puts the car in drive, then pauses. His foot stays on the brake. He looks at the dashboard, at the clean, unreadable displays. Everything is functioning exactly as designed. He pulls out of the lot and drives home. The house is large and empty when he arrives. The security system disarms. The lights come on automatically. He leaves his keys on the counter and sets the groceries down beside them. He does not unpack right away. He pours a glass of water and drinks it standing up. The kitchen is spotless. Someone was paid to make sure of that. He places the glass in the sink instead of the dishwasher. The sound echoes slightly. Later, when the sun has dropped and the house is cooled, he sits at the table with his laptop open. He scrolls through emails without reading them. His mind returns, uninvited, to the way the father said no. Not sharply, not with pride. Just as a statement of fact. He thinks about how rarely people refuse him. When they do, it is usually strategic. This was not that. This was something else. He closes the laptop. That night he dreams of the checkout counter. The milk is there again. This time, he reaches for it. Before he can touch it, someone removes it from the frame entirely. The counter is bare. The scanner keeps beeping. He wakes before morning. In the days that follow, he does not mention the encounter to anyone. There is no reason to. It does not fit easily into conversation. He goes to meetings. He signs documents. He approves decisions that move money in ways he barely feels. Still, something has shifted. At the grocery store the next week, he finds himself moving more slowly. He watches hands. He notices totals. He sees a woman put back fruit, a man count coins twice before paying. None of this is new. What is new is that he cannot unsee it. He waits in line and tells himself to stay where he is, to observe, to understand. He does not know what understanding would change, but he senses that acting without it would only repeat the mistake. At the register, The cashier asks if he wants a receipt. He says yes, though he usually does not. He folds it carefully and slips it into his pocket. Outside, the bus stop is empty. He drives past it anyway, slowing just enough to register the bench, the sign, the place where the father stood. It looks smaller now, less defined. Just another piece of the street. He feels a flicker of relief at that. Then a deeper discomfort follows it. Relief has come too easily. At a red light, he looks down at the receipt in his pocket. He takes it out and smooths it on his thigh. The numbers are clear, itemized, final. When the light turns green, he puts the receipt away and drives on. Something has been set in motion, though he does not yet know what shape it will take. He only knows that returning to how things were before no longer feels possible. The question is no longer whether he noticed. It is whether noticing will demand more of him than he is willing to give. The change does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, folded into routine. The man returns to the grocery store at the same time the following week. Late afternoon, same light, same home. He tells himself it is coincidence, but he parks in the same row and enters through the same doors. Inside, the store feels unchanged. Shelves are stocked. Prices are printed neatly beneath items. The order is reassuring. He takes a basket again, even though he does not need one. He moves more slowly now. He waits for people to pass instead of stepping around them. He notices how often others pause at the end of aisles, calculating. He notices hands lingering over items before letting go. At the checkout, a young man in front of him sets a can of soup aside before the cashier can scan it. No words are exchanged. The cashier removes it without comment. The transaction continues. The man feels the familiar tightening in his chest. It is duller this time, less sharp, but heavier. Repetition gives it weight. Outside, as he loads his groceries into the trunk, the store manager approaches. They know each other well enough to talk without preamble. They have spoken before about supply chains, margins, efficiency. Things are getting tighter, the manager says, nodding toward the building. We're seeing more shrink. The man listens. He does not interrupt. We're adding a few measures, the manager continues. Nothing big, just adjustments. Adjustments. The word sits between them. The man understands what it means. More cameras, fewer exceptions, higher prices to cover losses that will not be named. Do what you have to, the man says. He hears the flaw in the sentence as soon as he speaks it. The manager nods anyway. That night, the man sits alone at his dining table. The room is large enough that the silence feels intentional. He opens a bottle of wine and pours a single glass. He does not drink it right away. He thinks about the father's refusal again, about how clean it was, about how it left no room for argument. He understands now that doing nothing was not neutral. It was a choice that protected a system he benefits from, at the cost of people who cannot absorb its edges. The thought does not make him feel noble or ashamed. It makes him restless. The next day, he returns to the store again. Earlier this time, he waits near the entrance, pretending to check his phone. He tells himself he is not looking for anyone in particular. He sees the father before he expects to. The man stands near the front, holding a small list. The child is with him again, standing closer than before. She hums softly, off-key to herself. They move through the aisles carefully. The father checks items off the list one by one. When they reach the dairy case, he pauses. He reaches for the milk, then stops. His hand hovers. He exhales and moves on. The man watches from the end of the aisle. He does not approach. He feels the urge to step and rise and fall like a wave. He lets it pass. At the register, the total appears. The father pays. The milk is not there. They leave. The man remains inside, standing still long enough that another customer brushes past him. The physical contact startles him. He steps aside and finally moves toward the checkout. As he pays, he hears the cashier mention new procedures to the customer behind him. Limits. Verification. Small words that add up. Outside, the father and child are already gone. The man sits in his car afterward, longer than necessary. He does not start the engine. He watches people enter and leave. He sees patterns now, not moments. He understands something he did not before. Help offered at the wrong scale becomes refusal by another name. Money applied without structure simply shifts discomfort around. If he is going to act, it cannot be in moments. It has to be somewhere quieter, less visible. The silence after that realization feels heavier than before, but also clearer. It does not push him toward action yet. It only removes the illusion that waiting will solve anything. He starts the engine and drives away, already thinking about who he will need to speak to first. He does not return to the store for several days, not out of avoidance, but preparation. He finds that the urge to act too quickly has faded, replaced by something steadier. He spends time thinking in narrower terms, not what he can give, but where pressure actually lands. When he does go back, it is mid-morning. Fewer people, less noise. He takes no basket this time. He walks in empty-handed. The father is there again, near the front. He is reading a notice taped beside the customer service desk. The child stands close, rocking slightly from heel to toe. The paper is new, the ink dark. The man slows, then stops a few steps away. He does not read the notice. He does not need to. He already knows what it will say. Policy updates. Loss prevention. Neutral language for narrowed space. He waits until the father steps back on his own. "Do you know if the bus is still late in the mornings?" the man asks. The question is plain. It gives the father something solid to respond to. The father looks at him, recognition flickering and then settling. He considers the question. He answers without suspicion. "Depends," he says. "First one usually is. After that it's better." The child looks between them. She frowns slightly. "It was late yesterday," she says. The father nods. "That was yesterday." The man listens. He does not smile. He does not soften his voice. "I'm trying to figure out my timing," he says. "This store's quicker than the one near me." "That's why we come," the father says. The words are not defensive. They are factual. They stand there for another moment. The man notices the list in the father's hand. It is short, folded once, written in pen. He nods toward it. "You catch everything you need?" The father glances at the list, then at the aisles behind him. He shrugs. "Most of it." The child reaches up and tugs on her father's sleeve. She whispers something. He bends slightly to hear her. "They don't have the small milk today," she says, not quietly enough. The father straightens. He does not correct her this time. He looks back at the man. "They'll restock," he says. The man nods. He does not mention the milk. He does not offer anything. The conversation has reached its natural end. "Well," he says, "thanks." The father inclines his head. They separate without ceremony. The man walks out of the store and back to his car. He sits inside with the engine off. He watches the father and child leave through the doors, bags lighter than they should be. He makes a call. The person on the other end answers quickly. They know each other well. The man explains what he wants in careful terms. Not charity, not publicity, something embedded. Quiet. "There are ways," the other person says slowly, "but it won't be clean." "It doesn't need to be," the man says. "It will cost more than you think." "I know." There is a pause. Then agreement. Over the next week. The man has meetings that do not feel like wins. He sits across from people who talk in margins and thresholds. He listens to objections that are not cruel, just constrained. They discuss automatic discounts on staple items. Bread, milk, eggs. Apply to checkout without flags or questions. No applications. No announcements. The system will decide, based on existing data. Imperfect, but workable. The store resists. Shrink is already an issue. Any reduction has to be offset. "I'll cover the difference," the man says. "For how long?" someone asks. "As long as it's needed." That answer does not satisfy them. It is not scalable. It is not permanent. It relies on him staying where he is. They move forward anyway. The man signs documents that bind him to an expense with no return. He does not frame it as a loss. He frames it as pressure moved elsewhere. On the day the program begins, there is no announcement, no signage. The notices at the customer service desk remain unchanged. The man goes to the store that afternoon. He stands near the back, pretending to read labels he does not need. The father and child enter together. The child skips once, then stops when her father looks down at her. They shop, as they always do. The list is the same length. The milk goes into the basket this time. The father hesitates, then leaves it there. At the checkout, the total appears. The father looks at the screen. He blinks. He looks again. He does not speak. The cashier waits. The child leans forward. "It's less," she says. The father exhales. He does not look around. He does not ask questions. He pays. They leave with the milk. From where he stands, the man watches them go. He does not feel relief. He feels something closer to alignment. The action has landed where it should, without demanding recognition. He turns away before they reach the doors. The change settles in quietly, but it does not stay contained. In the weeks that follow, numbers begin to shift. Not dramatically, just enough to register. The man sees it in reports that would have once skimmed past his attention. Margins narrow. Projections soften. Nothing breaks, but nothing holds as tightly either. People notice. An advisor brings it up during a routine call. He frames it as concern, not criticism. The program at the store is flagged as inefficient. It lacks clear endpoints. There is no defined exit. It's bleeding in small amounts, the advisor says. That adds up. The man listens. He asks for clarification. He asks for data. He already knows the answer. We can redesign it, the advisor continues. Means testing. Applications. Something cleaner. Cleaner means visible. It means asking people to declare themselves. No, the man says. The word comes easily. That surprises him. The advisor pauses. Then we'll need to adjust elsewhere. They do. Other projects slow. Investments that once felt automatic are deferred. The man approves fewer expansions. He becomes more conservative in places where he once pressed forward. The shift ripples outward. It affects people who will never know why. That bothers him more than the cost itself. He thinks about the father, who never asked to be helped. About the child, who only noticed what changed. At the store, the atmosphere tightens. The manager mentions rising expenses again, though this time with more care. They talk about theft prevention less, about staffing more. The man does not argue. He listens. He pays. One afternoon, as he waits near the entrance, he overhears a conversation behind him. Two customers. One mentions that prices feel uneven, that sometimes things ring up lower than expected. The other shrugs. Maybe they're fixing stuff, the second says. The phrase stays with him. Fixing things implies something was broken. It also implies someone is responsible. That evening, he sits alone in his living room, lights low. He holds a printed report in his hands instead of reading it on a screen. He traces a line of numbers with his finger. He thinks about scale, about how every system, when stretched, reveals who it was built for. He understands now that this is not a solution. It is a compromise. One that will demand attention. One that will require him to keep choosing it. The cost is not just money. It is presence. It is restraint. It is being accountable for a decision that cannot be fully justified in advance. The next time he goes to the store, he sees the father alone. No child this time. He watches from a distance as the man shops more quickly, less carefully. The milk goes into the basket without hesitation. At the register, the total drops again. The father notices. He nods once, almost imperceptibly. He does not look around. As he leaves, he passes close enough that the man can hear him exhale. Not relief. Something steadier. The man lets him go. Later, in his car, he checks his phone. A message from an advisor waits. Another note about sustainability. About exit strategies. He types a short reply. Not now. He knows this cannot last forever. He also knows that ending it will matter just as much as starting it. The cost has become real, and he is still paying it. The father brings his daughter again the following week. It is later than usual. The store is busier. Carts crowd the aisles. The hum is louder, less patient. The man stands near the back, hands empty. giving himself a reason to be there without being part of anything. The child walks a half step ahead of her father now. She carries the list. It is still folded, but less carefully. She checks items off with her finger, mouthing the words as she goes. They reach the dairy case. The father opens the door. Cold air spills out. He reaches for the milk without pausing. The child watches him, then looks up. "They have it today," she says. "Yes," he says. "They do." He closes the door and moves on. At the checkout, the line is long enough that the moment stretches. The child swings her legs against the cart. Her shoes light up again, red then blue. The father rests his hands on the handle and waits. When their turn comes, the cashier scans the items. The total appears. It drops before settling. The child leans forward, curious. She reads the screen carefully. "They fixed it," she says. The father nods. He does not ask who. He does not look around for an explanation. He reaches into his pocket and pays. The cashier hands him the receipt. He folds it once and tucks it into his jacket without checking. They walk toward the doors together. The child pushes them open with both hands. Cold air gives way to warmth. The parking lot waits. The man watches from where he stands. He does not move closer. He does not follow. He lets the distance hold. When it is his turn to check out, he steps forward. He places a single item on the counter. Something small, ordinary. The cashier scans it. The total appears. He pays without looking. Outside, he walks to his car without stopping. He unlocks it and gets in. He does not hesitate this time. The engine starts. The air conditioning clicks on. As he pulls out of the lot, he passes the bus stop. The bench is empty. The sign stands straight. Nothing marks the place as important. He drives on. Later that evening, at home, he pours a glass of water and drinks it slowly. He stands at the window and looks out at a street that does not know him. Lights come on in other houses. Somewhere nearby, a bus brakes and pulls away. He thinks, briefly, about the milk. Not as an object, as a line that once had to be crossed. He sets the glass down in the sink. The sound is soft. It does not echo. In the quiet that follows, there is no sense of completion, only a steadiness where urgency used to be. Something has shifted. Not enough to change the world, enough to change how he moves through it. And tomorrow, when he goes back to the store, he will walk past the dairy case without stopping, because he no longer needs to look for what has already been left in place.